Hello, greetings of the day. This is Haribabu, Professor of English from Lendi Institute of Engineering and Technology at ELCS Lab. Today, we would like to talk prepositions, about prepositions, their use, and how are they encountering us in competitive exams. This talk slowly takes you towards a presentation of how prepositions that help us and what we should learn from the uses of them. So, if you can see, the definition of preposition talks about the relationship between noun or a pronoun and other words of a sentence. Basically, when you see in a sentence, noun or pronoun that comes in the part of subject of it. So when you observe the preposition that comes between the subject and other words of a sentence in order to make its relationship so easy to understand. In order to have a communication in through a sentence, generally preposition fulfills that communication by connecting words. So we can say prepositions or connecting words in other way also. They generally link the nouns, pronouns, and other words like verbs, phrases, other complements in the sentence together. Similarly, without prepositions, it is very tough to understand what the speaker is able to deliver through a sentence that he has or she has spoken or uttered. So, if you can see, there's an example. The book is on the table. It's a very simple, common example how it talks about the relationship between the book one side and the table the other side. So when you observe here, the book and its placement on where, how is going to link by the word on. So in the above sentence, on is a preposition because it relates the book and the table by showing the place where the book is kept, right? So if you can seriously observe, on the table is also going to act as a prepositional phrase. Basically, a preposition always comes with a noun or a pronoun. So here, if you can see, when it comes with a noun or a pronoun, it is believed to be said as a prepositional phrase. Like that, if you can go so deep into understanding prepositions definition, it talks about relation, it connects, it also brings value to communication, and similarly, it develops a prepositional phrase when it is used with a noun or a pronoun. So, if you now look into kinds of prepositions, basically, some frequently used prepositions are named as simple prepositions. They talk about time, they talk about direction, they also talk about agency, and they also can talk about direction. Like that, if you can see some of the prepositions, yet, which talks about time, for also talks about time, similarly, by. Generally, preposition is the part of speech. Basically, in a sentence, when it is used, the word are divided into a different part of speech. Similarly, here, when a word that is divided based out of the relationship that it shows, it becomes a preposition. A very simple word, but sometimes, when it is not used in a sentence, the communication is not possibly happened. So, like this, you can see some of these words on, off, with, the beyond, behind, from, by, for, yet. These words generally speak the relationship between noun or pronoun of a sentence and other words of a sentence. So, if you can see some other prepositions, they're little big, not very short. They also can talk about the relationship between noun or pronoun and other words of a sentence, like above, across, against, along. If you can see behind, these are all beneath. These are all also words speak about the relationship between subject and other words of a sentence. So they are also known as prepositions. Phrase prepositions, these are very interesting. The other kind of prepositions is phrase prepositions. Just now, when I was discussing the definition, I have just given you a hint of phrase prepositions, how they become phrase prepositions. According to these are little big. These are again added to a different word. Maybe they are followed by a verb or a noun or adjective. They can make different sense, or they also can come at large. They can connect a lot of what you call parts of a sentence, and then they emerge themselves as prepositions. So they are little big. They are also combination of many. They also look like compound, and they are standing as phrase prepositions, along with, in addition to, in case of, away from, in favor of, instead of, because of, in order to, by means, in reference to. Like this, there are varieties of combinations that they become as one particular expression. Then that will become a preposition, because they also can talk about the relationship in the sentence. So, kinds of prepositions, and then definition of a prepositions, all that has brought a lot of idea regarding prepositions. Now I can slowly take you to how the preposition is used. So when you observe this table, just I brought it before you to make you understand a very simple concept behind of how they are using how they are used to indicate some of the usages. So here, when you see it talks about timing, okay, exact time, meal time, parts of the day, age, etc. If you can see, at 5 p.m. it talks about time. At lunch it talks about the time of the sorry it talks about the meal time. And at dawn it is part of the day, early in the morning. And at age 20, so if you can see, yet can be used to indicate the timing at large. Similarly, by, it talks about a limit in time. Okay, sometime by sundown or by sunset. Okay, in the sense of that latest. Okay, by the due date. So similarly, in, that also can be used to indicate the timing. The fun is, all of these are going to talk about time only, but they are different in their usage. Such a way, the prepositions and its use, particularly when it is tested in any of the competitive examinations, it will be a very tough time for the competitor to crack the questions. So, you require a little extra practice on the usage of prepositions. So similarly, I also can take you to understand how these words that are tested in competitive examinations. If you can see, we are on the way from or to Vizag to Vijayawada. It's very easy from, because Vizag to Vijayawada, it is showing. So from always comes along with to when there is a duration that is found. Okay. So similarly here, from is the answer, in my opinion. You should explain this to them, is my understanding to understand. All right. So next, Teja has been absent. Since so far, since so far, both of them are going to indicate the timelines. Since will be used with a point of time. For is used with the period of time. So Teja has been absent since Monday is the right option, because Monday is the point of time. When it is period of time, my next question talks about it. I haven't been to the theater for a long time, because you're not specifying which point of time that you have stopped going to theater, but it is talking about a long time. A long time is nothing but a period of time. So a period of time takes for, like that. The sentences, all these sentences are asked earlier in many of the competitive examinations. So I would like to bring the simplicity in the use of prepositions. So don't worry that there are no much difficult words are appearing, but it is quite easy if you can understand the concept of using preposition in the asked blank. She goes to college by car. So to college is a right thing. At college is, when you wanted to say that it is at that place, if you wanted to say. But here you are saying going to college by a car. So similarly, if you can say this is comfortable house to live, naturally we can live in a house, not on a house. So live in, so that is the right option. So I think most of you who are visiting, who are viewing it, definitely will easily make a choice of how these prepositions are used. They are called uh, by different names or with different names. Generally, with different names would be suitable option. We should not spend money on luxuries. We should say that money on luxuries. Similarly, I gave him a chair to sit in. It is very interesting. Sit yet is something different, but sit in, sit at never comes. But a chair, you can sit inside the chair. So similarly, the new term begins from June 1st. Not on June 1st, begins from June 1st and then it continues. Sorry, it's on June 1st because, it is not given from June 1st till what is the date that is not covered. So we can say on June 1st. So these are all the answers, and I hope all of them are fitting to our answers because we have set up. We are on the way to. Sorry, we are on the way from Vizag to Vijayawada. You should explain this to them, and then since and for we discussed in detail. And she goes to college by a car. That's also right. So like that, we have got different answers, and then all of them seems to be very correct. And now we can see one of the best ideas. Sometimes, prepositions, they never be followed, but they are inside of them. So these are believed to be prepositions expressions, sorry, without expressions. So if you can see the point one, some verbs are normally followed by direct objects without prepositions. For example, what are those verbs? We can see enter, discuss, marry, lack, resemble, approach, avoid, advocate, seek, demand, request, order, emphasize. These words, some of these words, why some of all of these words, they look that they have already preposition within. Enter is already having into within. Discuss is having already about within. Marry with within. Avoid for within. So like that, if you can see, these verbs will have already preposition inside, so we need not use it. For example, we entered the compound. We entered the compound means we entered the compound. Inside the compound we entered. Whereas when we say we entered into the compound, that is very dangerous because into is redundant. But we can use like this. We entered into a discussion. Entered into is something like, taking part. Entering is something like coming into. So into is already there, so we need not use compound. We need not use into in this particular context. Whereas we wanted to say that we are taking part in the discussion, we can say we entered into a discussion. So like that, you have another one also, a number of expressions. A number of expressions of time, beginning with next, last, this, that, one, every, each, some, and any are used without prepositions. We should not say on next Sunday. We can say next Sunday, last night, this morning, that morning. Like that, if you can come across these expressions, we cannot use any of the prepositions. If you can see an example, see you next Sunday. We should not say see you on next Sunday because next, when it comes, buses leave for Vijayawada every 10 minutes. Buses leave for Vijayawada for every 10 minutes. You need not use because the preposition has already been there and it is understood in the sentence. It is easily carried out with its meaning. So similarly, one last point, prepositions are also dropped before what time. For example, What time does the train arrive? In fact, what time does the train arrive yet? So, like that, if you can see some of the prepositions which have already there with their expressions, so we need not again use them redundantly. So this is what for now about prepositions, and I take you in the next class for other ideas of prepositions. Thank you for watching. We'll be seeing further for all the best of English grammar and its usage. Signing off, your Haribabu.